Alright, the top story we're going to be talking about today is this low pressure system that's going to be moving through the Pacific Northwest, bringing some much needed rain and snow to California, Oregon, and Washington. So we're really going to dive into those areas to see when the rain's going to start, how much rain we're going to be getting, how much snow we're going to be getting, what are the extreme winds going to be like. But before we do that, I want to just take a general overview of the entire United States to really see what's going on. And if I had to sum it up in a few words, I would say there's actually not a whole lot going on. You can see we do have those wind advisories and wind warnings in Oregon and California. We got a little winter storm warning up in the Sierras, maybe even a little travel advisory. But the rest of the country is looking fairly quiet. And I'd say that's actually a good sign right now. Not a whole lot going on. I'm never bummed when that's in the forecast, but we do have some action on the West Coast, so that's going to be the main thing we're going to be talking about today. So if we just look at the overall pattern, the jet stream, what's going on across the country, you can see why it's relatively quiet across most of the country. So we do have this trough that's going to be pushing through, and that will be bringing some cooler air down to the northeast, but they got most of their rain and snow yesterday. They might get a little bit of a lake effect snow, just a dusting today and tomorrow, but for the most part, that little trough right there has already done its damage, brought some extreme winds yesterday, but at this point, it's just going to be bringing down some cooler temperatures. And then that trough on the west coast here is what's going to be bringing all that rain and snow to parts of Washington, Oregon, Northern California. And then you can see there's just a large ridge over basically the rest of the country. And that's why the weather forecast for most of the country is as boring as it is. The one thing that we'll be doing, though, is bringing some very above average temperatures. I'll show those in a second. Could be bringing some temperatures 20 to 30 degrees above average for the center of the country and then moving east throughout the week. So you can see that trough on the west, though, will be sticking around from Tuesday through Wednesday, really exiting out on Thursday. So that's the relative time period when we're going to be going over the rainfall and snowfall accumulations for the west. But then you can see as we get into Thursday and Friday and Saturday, the pattern across the entire United States is looking fairly flat. So while we do have some action on the West Coast over the next couple of days, as we get to the end of the week, it looks like there's not going to be much going on for the entire country as we move into Friday and Saturday. Then we'll have to keep our eye on this little trough coming in Saturday and Sunday into parts of the Midwest. That's probably going to bring some action towards the end of the weekend. And then just moving farther in, it looks like start of next week, we're going to have a little ridge over the West Coast, so we'll see what happens there. You know me, I don't trust a forecast more than 3 days out, so we'll see what happens as we move through this weekend. But I did mention that there were some well above average temperatures moving into the plains in about 24 hours. You can see as of right now, it's mostly above average on the west coast, below average on the east coast. And Los Angeles yesterday was actually well above average, set their all-time record in Los Angeles yesterday, 90 degrees in the downtown area. But as we move through, you can see as that ridge moves farther east, those high above average temperatures are going to move farther east as well. Again, 20 to 30 degrees above average in some places, while the east coast remains relatively cool for this time of year. Then as we move through Thursday and Friday, you can see the northwest is going to actually move to below average. The very southeast is going to be lightly below average, and then there's just going to be this strip going all the way from Southern California up to New York, where we're well above average. So temperature-wise, that seems to be the pattern of what's going on. The real exciting thing for me right now, though, is what's going on with the precipitation. We're actually going to be getting some rain on the west coast. That's really the only place where we're going to be seeing any precipitation for this entire U.S. map. Maybe a little lake effect in northeast, but really all the action is on the west coast, which it'll be interesting to see if the Weather Channel is actually covering it. They seem to always favor the East Coast, so they might be forced to finally talk about California for once over the next couple of days, because it looks like that's the only place where there's really going to be anything happening. So that is the first place that I want to dive in, and you can see that it's actually started. This is showing the radar as of right now, and some of that heavy rainfall appears to have already started to push into western Washington, western Oregon, even very northern parts of California. Looking at my window right now, I can actually see that the winds are picking up as I record this video right now. I can see the redwood trees swaying about maybe 10 to 15 feet at the very tops of the trees right now, and I'd imagine some of this rain isn't far behind, and we'll actually look at the timing of when the rest of that rain will be coming through California, and then some snow as well. So we're going to look at the snowfall totals also, and then later we'll get up into Oregon and Washington, but I do want to look at California first, because you can see that rain is already starting to push into the state, and actually some pretty heavy rain at that, which is great to see. So looking at later this morning, this should be in about an hour or two, we could start to get some heavy rain up in the North Bay. I love to see that. That's the Napa-Sonoma area, so it'll be great to get some heavy rain there, really continue to put this fire season to bed. If I had to go back on my fire danger forecast last week, I said, looks like it's the end of fire season for Northern California, and I actually think that could be the case. I'm crossing my fingers, but as of right now, it's looking like the fire season is done for Northern California. We will take one look at Southern California, where we could still have some fire danger today. But as of right now, we're going to have that rain pushing through in the next couple of hours. Then by later this afternoon, that's when we're going to start to pick up some snow in the Sierras. And then as we push into tonight and early tomorrow morning, that's when we start to get some heavy snow up in the Sierras. And then moving into Wednesday morning, that's when the heavy snow really starts to build in as our temperatures cool down in the Sierras and that storm system moves farther east. You can see though, we're still going to be picking up some light rain across Northern California, even throughout the day Wednesday, and even moving all the way down into Santa Barbara. So that's good to see some rain getting into Southern California as well. And I just want to see when the rain's going to start in the South Bay. It looks like it could be starting in about the next hour or two. Some heavy rain building in by about maybe 2 o'clock this afternoon. So that's pretty encouraging to see. The rainfall is going to be pretty widespread. Let's see when it comes to an end, lasting throughout the day. Wednesday, very northern parts of California, still getting some rain and snow early Thursday morning, and then it appears by Thursday afternoon, California is cleared up again. So next thing I want to look at is just how much rainfall we will be getting in total. So if we move just through Thursday afternoon, that's when that storm system appears to be moving out of the area. You can see we're actually going to get some decent rain with this one. A lot of that right there is going to be snow, so don't pay attention to that till I show the total accumulation of snowfall in a second. But looking at Northern California, could be getting 2 to 3 inches. Parts of the North Bay, over an inch of rain. So that's, again, just going to be great when it comes to really putting this fire season to bed. Another area where we could see some heavier rainfall accumulations is down in the Santa Cruz Mountains, right where I am. Could be getting maybe an inch of rain, so that'd be great to see. And then you can see just widespread rain for the rest of the state, lighter accumulations in the valley and parts of the South and East Bay, maybe just picking up a few tenths of an inch. But it's also good to see how far south it's reaching. It would be even better if it reached all the way down into Los Angeles, help the fire danger down there as well, but looks like it's going to stop right around Santa Barbara. So we'll take what we can get when it comes to rainfall. We'll also take what we can get when it comes to snow, and we're actually going to be getting some good snow with this one. So I don't know if the ski resorts are going to be open, how exactly that works with COVID, but looking at this map, by Thursday afternoon, we'll have a few places throughout the Sierras that have picked up over a foot of snow, maybe up to 15 to 16 inches in some places. For the most part, though, just this strip around a foot of snow. So that's pretty good to see. That could kick off the ski and snowboard season if, in fact, those resorts are open. I'll have to check up on that and include that in tomorrow's video if I can. So I did mention another part of this forecast that might actually end up being the part of this storm system that causes the most damage actually comes down to the extreme winds. Now, if the temperatures weren't cool, if there wasn't a great push of humidity, if there wasn't some rain associated with the system, I would be worried about fire danger because there are going to be some extreme winds. But given the fact that it's going to be cool and wet, I'm not too worried when it comes to fire danger. So really the only concern I have right now is just what might happen with some of these extreme winds that should start pushing in really in the next hour or two, especially up into the Sierras. You see, we're going to get some gusts up in the 50 to 60, maybe even 70 mile per hour range. That's why when we were looking at that warnings map, that's why we did have some areas that have a winter weather advisory and a high wind warning. So let's see if I can just find the map I was on again. Sorry, I have about 20 tabs open, so hard to figure out where your tab is sometimes. All right, so back to the wind gusts. You can see up to the 70 mile per hour wind gust range. That's pretty significant. So I'm thinking that's actually going to be the key danger of this storm system as it moves through. You can see parts of the South Bay getting 30 mile per hour wind gusts as well. I would say that's probably going to be likely because it's before this storm system has moved in right now, and I can already see the wind picking up outside my window, probably gusting around 15 miles per hour as I speak. So let's see how long these extreme winds are going to be sticking around. You can see, especially up in the Sierras, still in the 60 mile per hour range as we work into Wednesday morning. Looks like the South Bay will have calmed down a little bit at this point, but still gusting in the 20s. So this system will last throughout the day today, throughout the day Wednesday, and then as we move into Thursday morning, that's when this system appears to be moving out of California, and those extreme wind gusts appear to be calming down by Thursday night. So that's what's going on with the precipitation. We're going to get maybe an inch up in the North Bay. When it comes to snow, we could be getting a foot in the Sierras. And then when it comes to temperature, we're mostly going to be in the 50s and 60s throughout this entire week, maybe even cooling over the next couple days, especially in the southern parts of the valley. You can see as of right now, or the daytime high for today, could still have some spots in the 70s, but for the most part, Northern California will be seeing highs in the 50s. And it looks like that's really going to be the case over the next few days. Highs remaining in the 50s, maybe low 60s, and then we start to see those freezing temperatures moving into the Sierras, which is going to allow the snow to really accumulate there, possibly allowing for some skiing and snowboarding this weekend. And one area that I am a little bit worried about, not that worried to be honest, but it's worth mentioning, is this area around Los Angeles. This is a spot that during fire season, we know it sees Santa Ana winds, and it doesn't look like they're forecasting those strong offshore Santa Ana winds that we get during fire season, but it is still worth mentioning when it comes to fire danger because it is still going to be warm. We're going to be in the 70s. Yesterday, like I said, Los Angeles broke its previous record. It reached 90 degrees in the downtown area, and it's going to be warm again today. And it looks like it's also going to be dry as well. Relative humidity, not in the single digits, so that's why I'm really not too worried at this point. Maybe into the 20s, high teens in the worst places, but for the most part, when you compare this with the fire danger we've had this season, when it's triple digits, relative humidity at 3% and wind gusts at 60 to 70 miles per hour, I would say today we're not looking that bad. And then as we move forward into the future days this week, fire danger doesn't really appear to be a factor anywhere in California. So I'm sticking to my forecast I made last week that fire danger and fire season it's basically done for 2020, which is great to say because it has been the worst season in the history of California. Over 4 million acres burned, so hopefully that's what that number stays at, and we don't get any more fires until next year. Well, hopefully we don't get any fires next year either, but that's pretty wishful thinking. So now I want to move up to the Pacific Northwest, check out what's going on in Washington and Oregon. Idaho and Montana are actually going to get affected by this system as well, so we'll keep our eye on that. You can see just where that rain's going to start to push in as we move into later this morning. And it looks as though that is already starting right now. Like I said, the radar shows that some rain is already building into western Washington and western Oregon. So it appears this storm system has already begun. As we move into this afternoon, you can see that rain's just going to spread farther into Washington and Oregon. And then northern parts of the Cascades up in northern Washington will start to pick up some snowfall as well. Then some of that snow is going to push into Idaho by early Wednesday morning, late Tuesday night, into Montana as well, as we continue to see some rain on western Washington and western Oregon. Western Washington always seems to be a little tongue twister for me. And then we're going to be seeing a similar pattern really for the next couple days. We're going to have heavier rainfall along the coasts of Washington and Oregon, snow in the Cascades, and then the spot in Idaho will be picking up some heavy snowfall as well as we work through the day Wednesday. And then it appears that this storm system is going to be sticking around in the Pacific Northwest a little bit longer than it is sticking around in California. You can see at this point, this is late Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening. California is looking clear while we're still getting some rain and snow in Oregon and Washington, some snow in Idaho and Montana as well. And then it looks like it's going to clear up as we move into Friday afternoon. So if we want to see the totals when it comes to precipitation, I would say don't worry too much about right here. That's going to be mostly snowfall, so we'll take a look at that and Idaho right there in a second. When it comes to rain, though, we're actually going to be picking up some great rain western Washington and western Oregon. These are states that actually had some really bad wildfires this year as well, so great to see some good rain pushing in, really getting into what fall and winter should look like. So you can see parts of the western parts of the states could be getting 2 to 3 inches in western Washington, and then some parts of Oregon could be picking up as much as 4 to 5 inches of rain over the next few days. Now, when it comes to snowfall, you can really see that the heaviest spots were right where we continually saw that snowfall falling on that precipitation type and rate map. You can see we, for the most part, are going to be getting maybe 8 to 12 inches throughout the Cascades, maybe 8 to 12 inches here in Idaho as well. Maybe some select parts of Montana could be getting 6 inches of snow with this one. And then very northern Washington could be above that foot range. So it looks like with this storm, it looks like the Sierras might be the winner when it comes to snowfall accumulations, as we could be getting 16, maybe 18 inches of snow in the very higher elevation places. So also, as this snow moves in, when it first moves in today, it's mostly going to be dropping in the higher elevations, and then as we see that cool air start to actually fill in, that's what's going to allow the snow to start to drop into the lower elevations as well. And one other aspect that is huge for Washington and Oregon, they're going to be getting those extreme wind gusts as well. You can see western Oregon here getting 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. So just like I was saying in California, some of the big impacts of this storm system might actually be wind related. And I won't even say might be wind related. I would say will be wind related. As you can see, we might even be getting up to some hurricane force gusts throughout the western Washington and Oregon coasts. And then let's see how long these gusts stick around. Looks like the worst of it will be throughout the day today, maybe getting another wave Wednesday night. But then as we move into Thursday and especially into Friday, as that storm system has moved into the Midwest at this point, that's when the wind gusts should be calming down for Washington and Oregon and California as well. So, got some exciting stuff going on the West Coast. That's really the only area of the United States that has anything exciting going on, which is, it's good to say. We have so much bad weather, it seems like all year, just terrible hurricanes and tornadoes and wildfires. So if the only thing going on in the United States is some nice rain and snow for the West Coast, I love making that forecast, even if it's not all that exciting. Now, one thing I will say though, my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone affected by Hurricane Iota down here in Nicaragua and Honduras. That's an area I am keeping my eye on as it made landfall yesterday as a Category 4. There was some 160 mile per hour wind gusts associated with that. Most likely some storm surge, some flooding, especially as this continues to move across Central America, dropping maybe a foot or 2 feet of rainfall. So my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone in those areas. And for everyone in the United States, I'll be doing these weather forecast videos for the rest of the week, even though there might not actually be all that much going on. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.